Today we're talking about head amps, or the input section of your mixing console. This is typically the first stop along the way for your source or microphone after it connects to the physical input on the console. So let's take a look at what's included in that control section. The first thing to decide when connecting any source to a mixing console is whether that source needs phantom power. After that, we have our input trim or input gain, usually followed by a polarity reverse option. Next, you'll typically find your digital gain control, followed by the master assignment section for left, right, center right, and mono assignments. So let's take a look at each one of those sections in more detail. So first we have the choice of whether or not to apply phantom power. If you've got a condenser microphone, an active direct box, or another source with active electronics, it will generally require phantom power. You want to turn this off when you're using things like ribbon microphones or an iPod, for instance, connected with an adapter cable as opposed to a transformer direct box, so the phantom power doesn't damage the output stage of your iPod or blow up your ribbon mic. If you're in doubt about this, leave it off and consult the manual for the source that you're hooking up. Next, we have our input gain or input trim control. Now, what's going on here is we're raising the mic level signal from your source up to line level so the mixing board can process it internally. This is the first gain stage along the audio's path, so you want to be absolutely sure at this point that you do not clip at the mic pre. If you clip here, it'll just sound bad. This is not a time for artistic saturation or distortion or overdrive. You want to get a nice clean signal into the console. On a modern digital console, we typically aim for a -12 average on the meters. You can definitely have peaks a little bit above that, but you do not want to go over 0. Next up, we have the opportunity to reverse the polarity of the signal. This is not something we're going to use on an individual microphone, but when we put multiple microphones on an acoustic source like a drum kit, we may need to use the polarity reverse on certain microphones to get them back into alignment. Microphone polarity could be its own video for sure. It's a very in-depth subject, even though it seems very simple on the surface. I'm going to link in the description an article by Dave Ratt from Ratt Sound. He goes into great detail about how he uses this in relation to drum kits and other acoustic sources, so check that out for sure. Now, on most consoles, you'll also find a digital trim or digital gain in this section of controls. On Yamaha consoles, they put this in a slightly different place. It's actually down near the EQ section. But either way, this is a chance to apply gain after the analog to digital conversion has happened. The mic pre on most consoles. Now again, this is going to vary from console to console, and you need to understand the architecture of the console you're working on to properly set up your gain structure. But the digital trim is going to allow you to apply gain after the A to D conversion. The input trim is going to allow you to apply gain at the analog stage before the analog to digital conversion happens. It's important to get through that analog to digital conversion without clipping. It's important to not clip at all times, really, in a digital console, but you can add digital trim afterwards if you still need a little more gain on that input after the conversion stage. And finally, in this section, we're typically nowadays finding our assignments to our master output buses. Things like the left-right assignment, the left-center-right bus assignment, or the mono bus assignment are now being included in most of the input sections of controls. Don't be confused by this. This is the same buttons that you'd normally find by the fader of your analog console channel strip that would assign to left-right, subgroup 1, 2, 3, 4, so on. But they've divided up the master assignments on most digital consoles, left-right, left-center-right, or mono, and put those in the input section now. Typically, we'll unassign these. We'll turn all these off if we're going to use subgroups, but if you just want to feed left-right, left-center-right, or mono directly, this is your chance. So that's typically everything that's included in that input module of a modern digital console. This does vary from brand to brand and from console to console within those brands. And we've got to remember that this is absolutely the foundation of our mix. If you get things wrong here with this gain stage, there is nothing we can do down the line to fix it. So we've got to pay attention here. We've got to get the input trim set just right so that we're not overdriving that analog to digital conversion. In the next video, we're going to go right down the channel strip and we'll get into EQ. After that, in the following video, we'll do auxiliary sends. Then we're going to do other routing assignments to subgroups and buses. And then we'll look at how we get signals through the rest of the console and out of the console. Somewhere in there, I'm going to throw in dynamics, compression, and gates, because on digital consoles, that's part of the channel strip. So we'll see how we can work that in as we go. Probably after EQ, but before aux sends. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a question down below in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have directly. See you next time.